Have you guys ever had anything going on in your life? Like life is just happening for you, right? You have a really good job. Let's say you're married or you have a girlfriend, you're making good income, you got a really good place to live. Everything in your life aspect, from a personal level to an external level, is just really fucking good. You're in the best place of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, and you're happy. You're legitimately happy. But then there's this feeling in the back of your head, like, wait a minute, this is going way too well. There's something, there's got to be something coming up. There's something looping around the corner. I know there is. This is going way too well for me. Well, it seems that has happened for WWE. WWE just seems to be the person I'm describing right now. We had a really good year to start off with. I can't say we had a really good year because we're only 6 days into the year. But we started off the year very well. Shinsuke Nakamura went overseas back to Japan to wrestle the Great Muta in Pro Wrestling Noah. Then a few days after that, we had a really, really, really damn good to great Wrestle Kingdom show where we saw possibly one of the greatest matches of all time between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. Also in that show, a contracted WWE wrestler, Carl Anderson, wrestled on a New Japan show, unheard of. Mercedes Moné made her debut in New Japan. She's a free agent now, no longer under a WWE contract. Maybe that was the breaking point for him. Who knows? Everything just seems to be going great. AEW Dynamite got a new layout, a new format, new production. Everything just seemed to be going great. Just too well. Because then, on January 5th, we got a tweet. Multiple tweets from a lot of different news sources, credible sources. But I saw a tweet from just Sean Ross Sapp, who I consider to be a very reliable source. Now, I have my phone here. I'm recording this on my iPhone, but the cool thing about having two phones is that I can now utilize my Android phone for notes. So we have a tweet here from Sean Ross Sapp. It went up on January 5th at 4:39 p.m. Where was I at 4:39 p.m.? I think I was already on my way to the movie theater because I went to go see Megan yesterday, which I wasn't crazy about it, but I'm sure somebody else out there will like the movie Megan. So the tweet reads as follows. WWE has an exceptional management team in place, and I do not intend for my return to have any impact on their roles, duties, or responsibilities. That quote is by Vince McMahon. And you're probably saying, why would this quote be any relevant? Vince McMahon is no longer in power, right? He stepped down, he retired. That doesn't make any sense. Well, just because Vince McMahon stepped down or was taken out of power did not mean he got rid of all of his shares in the company. See, Vince McMahon still is a majority shareholder for WWE, which means that he still has a lot of voting power. Even though he may not be chairman, even though he may not be CEO anymore, he's still Vince McMahon, and he still has a big role to play in the company. He just doesn't have a public role to play in the company. He's more so behind the scenes, kind of not doing too much. But the old man just got bored and just decided, you know what, I'm going to come back to the company. So I'm going to go back a little bit the same day to a tweet from Wrestle Purist. Now this comes from, so the Wall Street Journal made this report, and it goes that Vince McMahon has told the WWE Board that unless he has direct involvement as executive chairman from the outset of a strategic review, he won't support or approve of any media rights deals or company sales. So, a lot to chew on there. First of all, Vince McMahon already told the board that unless he has direct involvement as executive chairman from the outset of a strategic review. Now, take into account that when Vince McMahon stepped down, who stepped into the role as the new chairman? Or should I say chairwoman? His daughter, Stephanie McMahon, because it was always going to be in the family. Everybody thought they would go to Triple H. It was always going to be his daughter or his son. His daughter, because her daughter is the businesswoman. So Stephanie is the co-chairwoman. So this quote from the beginning saying that unless he has direct involvement as executive chairman tells me that there has to be some plan in motion to either out Stephanie as the chairwoman or have her step down as chairwoman. Because if Stephanie steps down or the board votes her out, I'm not entirely sure how that works. I don't work in the executive world. But if the board votes out Stephanie or she steps down, then Vince would step right back into the role because he was the former, chairholder. So I think there must be some plan in motion for that to happen. I would like to believe that Stephanie wouldn't just step right down, but at the same time, this is the same man that basically put a hit list on her, had a hit list of people to get out of power, and Stephanie was one of them. Before, if you guys don't recall, before Vince McMahon even stepped down as chairman, he basically outed his daughter from the company. Like, Stephanie put out a tweet saying, like, there was some things that she had going on, but the other news reporters and dirt sheets were saying otherwise, saying that this was the plan to get her out and get some of his men in. It was a whole conundrum that happened. I don't remember all of it all too fairly, but there seems to be a motion right now to possibly get Stephanie out of that position to get Vince back in that position. Now, the question is, would Stephanie step down so that way her dad go back in? Only time will tell. But this is where I believe this will likely end up happening. Now, I don't want it to happen. I've been loving the helm of Triple H. I've been loving the creative direction. The company seems to be in a much better spot. We're seeing a lot of things that the company is taking risks and doing a lot of things that they would not have done if Vince was still there. So I love WWE under Triple H. I've watched more WWE in the last 6 months than I have in the last 6 years. So when I saw this, it made my heart stop because it's like, damn, I think I might have to go back to not watching WWE anymore. But the last quote says, he won't support any or approve of any medium rights deals or company sales. And you guys have heard this for the longest time, that the company is planning to sell. They want to sell to maybe Disney, NBC Universal, Fox. WWE is going to be on the market very soon. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but in a couple years, maybe 3 years out from now. Vince McMahon still being a majority shareholder, that would mean that he has a big play in what the company does in terms of being sold, because, your shares have have attachment to where the company is going. So Vince basically says that you not going nowhere unless I have part in this. Vince McMahon is playing the ultimate power play with WWE. He is holding this company hostage until they put him back in power. And it seems to have worked because this tweet went out just 15 minutes ago from Brandon Thurston. It says that Vince McMahon is back on WWE's board of directors. A new filing says, effective immediately, Vince put himself, Michelle Wilson, and George Barrios, which are two names that I've heard in the past, on the board, and removes independent directors Alan Wexler, Joel Lyons, Dylan, and Jeffrey Speed. And there is an attachment here that shows the filing of vacancies for the board of directors. And it looks like Vince is already back on the board. So, what does this mean? Does this mean Vince McMahon is already back in power and has taken the reins away from Triple H and Stephanie? It doesn't mean that's happened, but it means that the motion is already starting. The gears are in motion. As soon as Vince McMahon gets back on the board, that means that the worst is yet to come. The worst is yet to come. We are in the motion of seeing WWE go from its height to falling right back down to where it was before. And apparently, I can look at the stocks right now for WWE. Yesterday, I heard that the WWE stocks have gone up since this news came out. And if I go in a little bit, let me see if I can go through Robinhood. I actually still have that app downloaded. Y'all gotta bear with me. And we're not doing any cuts here because I gotta work in a few minutes. But let's see. Let's go to WWE. Okay, so this is pre-stock market. Let's go back to 1 week. So, okay, go away. As we see right here, I'm going a little bit. as you can see right here, this is from 1 week. So this is from the beginning of last week all the way up to, you see this humongous hike. That big ass hike that happened is from January 6th. So when this news came out that Vince McMahon was going back in power, possibly, a big hike happened. Which means that a lot of people bought back into the company. A lot of people that may have left when Triple H came in. And as you can see, there is, let's just go to a 3-month time period. Or even 1 year. Let's do 1 year. That looks better on the stock. So this is a year timeline from January to January, right? You can see it's kind of going up, going up, going up. And then it kind of dips right here. And it looks like that dip may have been around the time where Triple H was coming in. Yeah, when Triple H was coming in, I think that was around like July, when the news that Vince was leaving. That's right here, I believe. And that's when it kind of goes down. Now it goes up a little bit, goes up a little bit, goes back down, goes back up, goes back up, goes back down. And now it goes right back up as soon as the news that Vince is coming back in. Which looks like that's the highest the company possibly may have been since November, which I don't know what happened in November that the stocks went up. But that is just not a very good thing to see that the stocks have gone up now that Vince is back on the board. Because that tells a lot of other possible investors that Vince is more trustworthy. And it would make sense that Vince McMahon to the business world would be more trustworthy back in power, because the company flourished under Vince. Even though it went down under Vince, it also flourished in the very beginning of its stages in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s under Vince. Also, take into account that a lot of these moves that were made from Fox and NBC were made under Vince. Because we as fans see the stuff that happens on television, we're more inclined to believe that, oh, Triple H and Stephanie taking over is the best thing for the company. Well, the business world doesn't think that way. They see it as, what moves happened under this man? What happened? What has gone up under this man? And everything that dates back to WWE's uprise started under Vince, not under Triple H. Triple H just came in 6 months ago. To the rest of the world, he's unproven. He's proven to us because we've seen him wrestle, we've seen him grow as a person, we've seen him grow as a businessman. But to the rest of the suits in the world, they don't really see the vision that Triple H sees yet. But the second that they hear that the guy who started everything is coming back, they're like, well, that sounds like good enough news to us. Let's buy back into the company. The WWE likely is going to sell under Vince than it would under Triple H, if we're being honest here. It's mainly due to name and not much else. I'm sorry, I had an alarm going off. Okay. As a fan, I'm incredibly disappointed. We all know the allegations with Vince McMahon and what went down with those women, and how he stepped down in the first place was due to the allegations and the board basically saying, hey, listen, there's too much shit going on. There's too much news coming out. You gotta get down before all the company goes under. Vince basically left because if he did not leave, the company, if Vince did not leave, the company basically would have suffered if he would have stayed during those allegations. And now that all that stuff has died down, even though the internet never forgets, that stuff has died down to the rest of the world. Now he's gonna come back in and take everything back from the company. What does this mean for Triple H and Stephanie? I don't know, because I don't work in the business world. I don't know exactly how that works, but what I can tell you from the stuff that I do know and the sources that I've talked to is that there is a good chance that Vince McMahon is probably going to be back in power in WWE. He might even get that chairman position back. All I'm going to say is just prepare for Vince McMahon to be back. Exactly where everything was. Now, he even said himself, and we even said this earlier, that he doesn't plan to take back any roles or duties or responsibilities in management, like internally in WWE with creative and all that kind of stuff. But it's Vince McMahon. Do you guys really honestly believe that he's not going to have his fingerprints on anything and he's just going to work behind the scenes on the executive role? I don't believe that. I don't believe it at all. I think there's a very real possibility that Stephanie will be outed as the chairwoman. I'm not saying she's being out of the company, period. I think that she'll probably still have a place in the company, but she'll be outed as the chairwoman. Vince will be back in, and then Vince will probably take creative back from Triple H. And then WWE will be worse off than it was before on terms of television. And then I'll go back to not watching it again. I was very happy to hear that Triple H was taking over because I was a huge fan of NXT back when it was ran by Triple H. And to hear that he might have that all taken away from him after everything he has done to make this company better just makes me less confident about even wanting to be investing in WWE the way I was just even a few days ago. If all this stuff comes to fruition and Vince is back in power, I probably will still go right back to not watching WWE again. I'll be 100% honest with you. I did not like the direction WWE was going in when it was under Vince for the last 5, almost 10 years. And I'm probably not going to like it when he comes back. So if that happens, I'm preparing for the worst. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below. I'll talk to you guys later. Try to be safe and try to take care of yourselves. I know this is a very depressing time for all of us, but we're going to fight through it. 2023, off to a horrible start, but we're going to make it somehow. Peace out, guys.